Hi, we are back to the Uncool Season 2, the podcast where we talk to people about the uncool side of being cool.
Yeah, once again, I'm Sean.
And I'm Yin Ling.
And today we're talking about what it's like to actually go make your own independent film. So we have two two feature films with us today. We have Christian and Jason. They did Jimami Tofu. They're from Banana Mana Films and Banana Mama?
Banana Mana.
Banana Mana.
If you're a gamer, you know Mana.
Banana Mana.
Yeah.
And of course, then we have Ming and Scott. They are kind of related, still in the banana sense because they're monkey and ball. They're from Monkey and Ball, and they did this film called Repossession. And speaking of $1 million TV projects, what's it like on Power Rangers, Jason? $1 million TV project. I mean, you were the Green Ranger, right? And
Yes. 18 years ago. Thank
you
for mentioning
I'll
that.
be very interested to know. Like, what is it like to be in such a show? $1 million TV shows.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can make something like that for $1,000.
I would
never
love
know.
to. I'd love to.
But what is it like in that?
Well, it was a lot of money in those days, and still is. Like it was one of my first shows, obviously out of drama school, and then it was all shot on film, and very big budget per half hour. In other words, $1 million for half an hour or something like that. So, a lot of people look at it as kind of this. Well, some people look at it as kind of this B-grade thing that they watched once when they were young, and even my agent at the time said to me, do you really want to do this? Because, it's kind of this kiddish sci-fi show. And I went, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I do. Because they were doing, the way I got in was they were doing these cattle calls because they'd moved it out of, California, filming in California to New Zealand. So they then had to just say, well, who's in Australia? Are there any actors there? And they just have this
Are there
cattle.
people living in Australia? I wouldn't know. I'm from LA.
So they had this massive cattle call to find out if anyone would, do it. And so my agent just said, well, before your audition, just go and watch the tape of the Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers, the movie.
You mean you hadn't watched it before?
I watched some of it before, but it wasn't really my time, or I hadn't
It
really
was
watched.
past,
Yeah. I was
The target audience.
older than that. So when I watched it, I went, oh man, yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but it's so cool. Every boy's dream, right? And once again, like we were talking about it before, it's like, a lot of things I've chosen in my life, it's just about, that's my dream. I want to be a superhero. I don't care about, like if they typecast me or they don't ever cast me again. I just want to achieve that. I want to be a superhero. It's just fun. And so
at that point in time,
that's what, yeah.
if you were Asian, you were not gonna be a superhero.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And that was a big
that's
deal.
true.
That was a big
Yeah.
deal in that at that time. And in fact, Power Rangers was one of the only shows that ever cast ethnic minorities. They always have they could have Hispanic race, African American, and then Asian. And I loved it for that. In fact, the core of the show, the person who created it in Japan, I got to meet him, and he said the whole point of Power Rangers was his concept that he pitched to his father when he was 17 was different colors representing the different races of the world coming together and uniting to fight off a force from outside. And that's what's going to unite the earth. And so that was his core message. And I went, oh, I love that. That's amazing. But, it was part of the reason I joined and really liked the show. And to this day, like, we just had like an 18-year reunion a couple of weeks back. And we had this kind of, it was part of one of the Comic-Cons, the big Comic-Cons in America. And it was done online. And I was like, it's just crazy that and people buy photographs, and autographs and everything. And I was like, it's crazy that you're involved in this show. And like you said, when you're an actor, you basically walk on, do your lines, and you walk off. Like you don't create it, but they all feel like you're so much a part of their life because they grew up with you, and they saw it and they watched it again and again. And,
Well, for a show like that, yeah. And so do you have your own
They're
action
still
figure?
making comics about it, no?
And do you still have your own action figure?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
my son's playing with my action figure.
So
now.
you have an action figure.
Yeah, that's a
action
dream, man.
figure.
Who doesn't want that? Right?
The other thing I need to ask, just get this Power Rangers thing out of the way. It's true that they cut to the Japanese thing when they fight the monsters and
Yes,
so it's like,
yes.
So you film like 2/3 of an episode, and the last 1/3 is like whatever.
Yeah, so they have to match the Japanese cuts of the monsters. So, and the reason why that is interesting because Toei, the toy company makes the toys before the show.
Oh,
and
right.
then they
So
make
that makes sense.
They make all the Megazord fights all around the toys before they make the show. And then they write the show around that. So they're writing the show around all the toys that they're going to release through the year. So the company releases the toys and designs them all through the year at a certain schedule, and they have to fit that schedule. So it's a whole business built around selling toys.
So
and they're still the number one male toy that gets sold every year.
So you never had to wear the suit. You filmed up to the point whereby you become.
No. So we do. So we did a lot of, and it was kind of new to our series, I think. We did a lot of unmorphed fighting. So then if we do unmorphed, in other words, no helmet, then we would do it without. But yeah.
I was thought it'd be somebody else who was in that suit. Then the action figure's not really you.
Yeah, true. Well, it's certainly not my body. That action figure has real muscles.
So sorry to your son. Then he's playing with someone else.
Yeah, someone else's body.
So, but anyway, but I think it's a good segue to what our next point, which is I think, Ming Siu also. I mean, having spoken to him knowing him for quite a long time, he's also mentioned there's a very lack of emphasis on business development. A lot of lack in with the producers in the industry and so on.
Right. What I was saying before.
Yeah, we're saying before you.
Well,
guys
as in like
know.
the-
No, especially, the scale of Power Rangers aside, it's just in general, there really isn't a lot of
Going back to
business.
indie.
Right.
There really isn't a lot of
Yeah,
business
yeah.
development, I guess.
Very different.
I mean, the biggest thing, the biggest lessons we learned about when you make your own feature and then try to get it out there, and I'm sure that you guys learned along the way, is the business side of things, right? That is what isn't taught in film schools. They teach you all the technical side of things and all that. And honestly, like, we learned that in the process of making a movie, making it, shooting it, editing it, that's like the easiest part. You can do it in your sleep if you've been in the business long enough and worked long enough. It's all the rest of it. Assembling the money, getting distribution, that sort of thing. That's the business side. It's you're thrown into the deep end, and yeah.
Well, I'd just like to add, along with the business, traditional business aspect, I think things are quite shattered and broken. So once again, ignorance is bliss. I think when we started to go after it and we looked at the traditional business model, we met with so many producers and they say, oh, this is what you got to do. You got to line this up. Then you got to get these sponsors. A lot of it was like, we're never going to get a film made. Like if we look at, and I have so many budgets for feature films as templates. It's like, really, it's cost this much? Like, no, there's some sort of like, rigged game here that somebody's making all this money, because these numbers don't add up to what it would really cost. So in a way, we wanted, we wanted to rewrite the business model just by being ignorant, just going, okay, what do we need? How, just break it down. What do we need? What do we truly need? Could we do a lot of those roles ourselves, and could we learn them, to execute? And that's how we were able to sort of reconstruct the whole business model and do things with DSLRs and edit ourselves and do things at home and like we wrote the whole script. We didn't even commute to sit together. He stayed in Tiong Bahru, I was in Sembawang. We just got online video calls. So anything to sort of hack the system so where it applies to where we can make the movie that we want to make the way we want to make it. And I think that's the beautiful golden age that everyone's living in now, is that this whole business model that they teach in film school. I have friends that went to film school. They went to New York. They studied. It's like never made a film. Like what kind of information they teaching you? They're teaching you like how to do budgets for 35 millimeter prints. It's like all that is doesn't really apply anymore. And I think it can be rewritten. And there are no rules.
We lived through that age where it was just being kind of torn apart. The industry really is like cowboy land now.
Yeah.
Because when we first started in Singapore doing work around here in 2006 and just before, it was like everything was still shot on film, like
Big cameras and so on,
massive cameras, crews, audio people charging $500-600 to $1,000 a day to do that. And when we came to start making stuff, we were like, we can't pay someone $500 a day. That's our entire budget for the web series. A day?
You won't even read the damn script.
Yes, okay. I didn't want to get into bitching, but no, you're absolutely right. Like but seriously, that was our problem too. We would come onto set as actors in those days, and we said the makeup artist doesn't know the script, the costume designer or wardrobe person hasn't read the script and won't, and is quite proud to say, I don't read scripts. I don't read. I will just use my intuition. What do you think? What character are you today? As our doctor, what do you know? Is there a specific makeup for doctors? Is that what you're saying? Because they'll just do it, and
Doctor normal makeup law.
yeah.
No, it's a culture shock for you, right? Coming from Power Rangers and coming from the US, I guess they're more professional and I mean, or
It's
more.
not just
more
I think it was just about do you even care that you're here? So there was a mismatch about people in the industry and saying we're not paid our worth to how they were behaving, and I called that out a few times, and I don't think people like me for that. Like I just go, this is wrong. This is wrong the way you're behaving, and it doesn't match with what you're asking for in terms of. So if you want to be paid $500 a day, you've got to do the damn work. And then for writers to say things like, oh well, we don't get paid as much as Hollywood. That's why the writing's not very good. And I called that out once. I just said, so you mean you dial down the quality of your writing based on how much you pay? I don't think so. I think your writing is just not very good. And no matter how much I paid you, your writing would be the same. Wouldn't that be right? Like it's so much, but I mean, we kind of faced the same thing when we had to write ourselves, right? It's really damn hard. And it's easier to then say, I give up and I just blame it on the fact that we have no industry and therefore no one could pay me to write that feature script that I know is in there somehow, right? And when you really face it, like I guess we've done, you become incredibly humbled by the fact that I can't freaking write. This is really, really hard. It's harder than anything else. No wonder the very top writers, when you're writing for Hollywood, do get paid really well, and the Korean writers get paid really well when you're really, really good. But there's so much other crap down there that isn't worth anything because no one will ever pay for it. So then we had to say to ourselves, we've got to turn all our criticism back to inward and say, that was a piece of crap that we just wrote. And that we just shot was a piece of crap. And it was really hard sometimes. I don't know if you guys went through that. Really hard. We'd film stuff and we'd come back and look at it and just go, I don't ever want to do this again.
We got to reshoot it. We told ourselves we have to reshoot.
Yeah, like so many things we had to redo because it was just horrible.
Yeah.
Was it the same for you, Scott? Your first time writing, like Repossession?
It's your first time just out of school.
Well, I mean, it's the first thing I've written. Outside of school, honestly, and I totally agree. Like we'll write this, and then, I mean, obviously, like Ming is like a more experienced writer, so like in that regard, like it isn't absolute. At least like when, as in like when I'm writing it.
That was a backhanded
No. As in like if I write the scene and then like he's like there, he's like, yeah, maybe we should like add that in there, and I'm like, okay, yeah. Then I'll just like try to come up with it. And so like when I look at it, it's not absolute like something that I've just wrote. Yeah, because like he has more experience with all that. But like I really must say like because like I started off as an actor, right? And like
Easier to criticize, huh?
No, actually, when I was acting, like even when I was like really like when I was a kid, right? Like I would always like look at like the producers and like the directors and all that, and then I would always see like they would always like be referring to like some Bible for the day, right? And like I always thought to myself like they're definitely getting paid much more, and that's okay, like because they're putting in the work, but like slowly like through the years then I realized like they're actually not getting paid that much. Like I probably earn more than them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, that
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You
Is
definitely
that what
don't have to
Jason?
do as much work.
Is that what Jason said?
Yeah.
Oh, just be the audio guy,
Yeah,
just show up
yeah,
and record the sound and go home.
Yeah, man.
No, but
I mean, writing is hard, but I tried to prep you for it.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, the first draft is always just don't even worry about it. It's like just hammer it out, get it done on paper, and then you can rewrite.
And yet,
I mean, most people don't realize that the rewriting process is the long and arduous one.
And I think that's one of the constraints also you face on commission work, because the timelines are always very tight, so they don't really give you enough time to rewrite.
Commission work is where actually what Jason said, that the writer's excuse applies. It's like if I'm getting paid X amount,
but I think also
and they give me X amount of time to do this, then this is the quality that you're gonna get. You cannot expect this, because this takes much more time equals much more money.
Yeah, but I think like those two things, like the one you mentioned and the one Jason mentioned, like it's a little different. Like what Ming's you saying is like, yeah, if you tell me to like churn out like
Yes.
28 pages like
Tomorrow.
by tomorrow, yeah, this is what you're gonna get.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there definitely are people who like you have like 2 months to write something.
Yes.
And then they're like,
No,
they're not
it's a
paying me
luxury,
enough.
I think.
Yeah,
It's a
it
luxury
is
that
a
not every
luxury thing,
production
yeah,
has
yeah.
nowadays.
If your next project, if you are not getting paid for it, or you have to pay for it yourself, you've been through it. You guys are you had to come up with your own
Not
stuff as well.
that larger scale.
not fully as extreme as what they did.
Yeah.
Would you guys do it again?
Well, technically, we made the short film for free, for nothing.
Oh
Done
yeah,
it
but
once, wouldn't do it again.
but it was a short film. We made a short film during.
Entirely remote and virtual.
Yeah, we directed through like
Congrats.
Google Talk.
Oh, that's cool.
Where you got actors to put the cameras there and like.
Lens
the angle. Are you sure it's in focus? It's a bit like what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Except if you're looking at it through. At a screen through a screen, there's no way you can see whether anything's in focus. Yeah, but anyway, and it's been in a couple of festivals. We've also been.
Ironically, like the one that we made for free has actually like made money before the one that we had to like.
Yeah,
raise
because
funds
we
for.
won something with a cash prize. So
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but I think. Yeah, I mean, if you put aside all the other stuff that you kind of don't want to do, and like you have like that time and space to like think and actually do something that you want to do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, I mean, I think this is the same for Ming here as well. Like, you definitely do it.
Well, I think as of today, I mean, we have a whole project lined up. It's a film shot in Singapore. It's all fleshed out, the whole like concept. If you would ask me today, would you do it today, start on it, I would have to say no. And the reason why I'd say no is because we still haven't figured out the missing piece, which we haven't really talked about, which is distribution. Because if you can't get your film out there and make all that money back, plus pay yourselves a really nice reward, then I guess you're just doing it for art's sake, but it takes up a lot of years of your life. And I think that portion's broken for independent films and independent release, which I guess is the reason why I brought up the whole audio sort of points about like in the Golden Suite, is because we developed a platform called Cinewave that I think addresses the distribution problem. And the only reason why I feel like we have confidence to say that is because we went through the whole route. Like, yes, we longest running film in Singapore cinemas, that's really great, but did you make all your money back? If we didn't get the sponsorship and the grants, no, we didn't. We'd be out of pocket. Someone would be out of pocket, and that's broken, right? So are we going to beg again and try and apply for all the grants and just keep doing that sort of cycle? No, there's got to be a better way. Well, we believe we can create a product that people will pay money for. So before we do that, I think we have to figure out the distribution problem, which is how do we access the people that want to see our films and pay us at where we get the lion's share. We understand there's middlemen. We understand how the cinema structure, and it's very expensive. We understand all that. And the transition we were even in before that, with everything moving to streaming, there is an opportunity to reinvent and to innovate in the distribution portion. they could just go to cinewave.com and figure out what we're trying to do. But I think, be glad to talk about that a different discussion, because I think Cinewave and the platform we're trying to create is for all independent filmmakers to help them distribute their films, get them out there, and actually help people to experience films in a different way than just going to the cinema.
You talk about Cinewave, right? And I think it kind of brings you back to your DNA about being a disruptor, in a sense, because you were disruptors when you created your own toggle series, when you created Jimami Tofu in that format of DSLR and Runford, when people were on 30-man crews. So it's kind of in your DNA to always want to disrupt things. What keeps you guys want to do that?
It's painful. It's painful because when you disrupt, people don't like you. You're not very popular, and you look like you're trying to take away other people's lunch, But ultimately, when we discovered, I think every filmmaker goes through this. When you get to distribution, they're just at a block. And for most films, even all the award-winning films, in Singapore, they play maximum 2 weeks. We know, we were at the cinema when all these award-winning films came back from their awards, and it was 2 weeks at a 5 o'clock slot, which no one can get to, and they were empty. Because we were playing our film in the other hall, so we'd go in and check them out, and they were empty. 2 people, 3 people, and we're like, there's no way they made a dime on that. There's no way. They made a loss, And so we said, there's something really, really broken here. And we set out to sort of see if we can fix it. And it was a very simple sort of fix for us. We just said, let's just fix something that we had a problem with first, which was audio. So we said, if we can deliver high quality audio to people using their mobile phones while they watch on a big screen, totally in sync, this will fix a lot of our event screening problems. Wherever we had an event screening, like out in the park, we had a Botanic Garden screening, we had 2,000 people. But the speakers were only really set up for about 500 to 700 people, and it's echoey and booming, right speaker only or left speaker only. You didn't have the mix that we painstakingly made. So we said, what if we could just give everyone the sound, high quality audio on their phone, any level of quality.
Oh, so it's synced to the big screen.
And sync to the big screen. And that's essentially all Cinewave was. It was just syncing audio from your mobile phone to the big screen. Very difficult to do. But once we achieved it, people started to see, oh my goodness, this can disrupt a massive industry, because you take away the infrastructure costs of a cinema, which is what they'll charge you when you get into the cinemas. When you come back and you get into GV, they'll say, oh, this cinema's very, very expensive. You're going to have to pay for that. Every seat that isn't sold, you pay for. And
that's if you four-wall it, yeah.
That's if you four-wall, but somebody has to stake.
Actually, it actually doesn't matter. Even if you don't four-wall it, Marvel, Disney, apparently they all have to stake seats. So because you're buying it from someone else.
Yes.
Someone else can have that cinema. So essentially, someone pays for it. And for most releases, Christian released a film way back when as well, as a part of the distribution process. They charge you for everything.
You'll make a loss.
In the foyer.
They'll charge you a bill.
They will bill you for being in the cinemas. So be careful of that.
Okay,
because
thank you, Projector. You guys were amazing. You didn't do that.
Okay.
Shout out Projector.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what stage are you guys at now?
With Cinewave, actually, we're about to launch. We've actually held back on a major sort of proper launch. Like, we couldn't launch in Singapore. We couldn't have an event. But we're due to launch soon at Marina at Keppel Bay. And it's beautiful sort of cinema that we're going to set up there. And we're also piloting in Los Angeles and Santa Monica with a big drive-in there for a company called Rooftop Cinema Club. And we've actually been piloting quite a few other different countries which had the same problem, and they all just found us online, and through word of mouth it got out there, and people started just piloting and trying it and going, yes, this is really going to solve a lot of problems, because when you hire a facility, they will charge you a whole lot for it. Yeah.
So now the cost is not so prohibitive already. It's not lower because you guys are.
So one day, we hope to have one of the largest cinemas in the world at the Float at Marina Bay. That's our dream, where we have 40,000 people or 35,000 people watching a film at the Float. And if we can really achieve that one day, we'll be able to give back to filmmakers their probably their entire global revenue in 1 or 2 days.
Oh.
That's our aim. And then we can make films, and then we have an industry. Because until then, we don't have an industry. You look at all the filmmakers that have ever been making films here in Singapore, they make back their money maybe never, most of them never, because you look at the cinemas and you go, there's no way you made your money. Even if they gave you those seats for free, there's no way you made your money back, or any money back, actually. We're trying to convince several people to come together. We're meeting with them this afternoon, actually, to say, look, when we create something that's beyond just the film, an experience that's beyond the film, an event, a stage, the environment, and people are paying, you know, $25, $35 to sit in that environment and try and watch a film, the film doesn't matter so much anymore. It still matters, but it doesn't matter so much anymore. And people are willing to pay for an event, an experience. They're not so willing to pay for a commoditized experience sitting in the same old cinema with the same popcorn every day. Because now we have access to everything at home. We can watch anything. We can watch any movie from anywhere, right? So now to bring them out to the big screen experience, which people still love and filmmakers still love, we think we've got to up the game and we've got to reinvent the cinema. And I think that's going to do it, we believe. And when we can do that and hopefully give you your revenue for, in the past, maybe 4 or 5 years, if you made it to cinema for that long.
On that note as well, what about you guys? What's next?
We're writing stuff. It's early days. We had a story, a treatment that was in the Bifan market.
Well, the Korean festival, right?
Yeah. They have this project market, and what it does is people pitch ideas and stories and that sort of thing, and if they pick you, you get to have meetings with production companies, with festival people, programmers, things like that. So we did that last year with this new project that we're doing. Everything was online, but in a way it was kind of good also because
we were able to like meet with people from different places in
Yeah.
the world, right?
So
Because
easy
that's
now.
one of the benefits of having it virtual, right?
Yeah.
So on your own projects, was there ever a moment when you thought that was the most uncool thing ever and I'm so done after this? Was there ever that moment?
It's not an uncool thing. I mean, like almost having like a breakdown is cool or uncool. I don't know.
What happened then? Man?
No, okay. So I mean, it's our first feature and that sort of thing, right? And because it's independent and it's all money from friends and family, there's a lot of anxiety going into it. And before we started shoot, I think 1 or 2 days before, like I was just completely nauseous, and I couldn't get food down, and I was like throwing up nothing basically because I wasn't eating anything. It was just pure anxiety, right? Like I had to go like to a pharmacist and like get anti-nausea pills because like I don't want to go on set and be yeah. So I guess that's uncool. But then, like I get there on set and it's the first scene and we had planned to shoot like at Raffles Place. We got there like early because we wanted the crowd, right? Free extras, right? And it was pouring. It was like the worst rain that you had ever seen in months. But then we shot anyway. We just like changed the scene and shot stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. And then subsequently it was like, well, okay, like we'll just take it one day at a time, step at a time. Yeah.
We don't have money to reshoot.
What about you guys? What was the most uncool thing that happened on
You might agree with this. So the most uncool moment was where we actually looked cool, but we had no choice. We looked cool because we were just so uncool, which was the last day of shoot for our feature film, Jimami Tofu. We were shooting in Okinawa, and we had been rained out 3 times for this one day of shoot, which is all the underwater shots and all the boat scenes. So we had written this, character that's a free diver and a lot of shots underwater. We had no idea what we were doing.
So
we didn't know
beautiful.
about the safety diving, all this other jazz. And we had gotten rained out twice before, and so it was the last day of the shoot, and we had to get that footage because otherwise we had no film. It was so written in. And in addition, we wouldn't get the grant money if we went over, that just we wouldn't be able to get the grant money. So
Or any of it.
or any of it.
So we filmed for a month, and they said, if you don't finish on this day today, you get nothing.
Yeah. So they called an emergency meeting. Jason and I are there with our fixer, producer, and ADs, everything, and they just said, look, tomorrow is scheduled high swells. We won't be able to go out. What are we gonna do? It's we're effed, right? And we just looked at each other, and I guess the most cool moment was just like, well. We don't know. Well, let's just wake up and find out.
We had no idea. Like, what else can you do, right?
We were
Yeah.
so tired, right? Because it was a whirlwind, 1 month shooting, as much as we can, and just look, what could you do? You can't do anything. You just have to wake up and just see what it brings you. And so, I guess that was quite cool, but it was uncool
Go with
because
the flow.
a lot of people stressed out, except for the two guys that probably had their necks on the line. Everyone else is just sort of hired. But what can you do? And I think that's quite cool. Is like, yeah, what can you do? You just got to wake up the next morning. So believe it or not,
Sunglasses.
the sun was up. It was beautiful. The seas were calm. We went out. We actually wrapped early, and we shot everything that we needed to shoot. And as like the underwater footage was beautiful. Granted, it was a little bit murkier
Yeah,
than
actually, that's
normal
why-
because of the
Because of the storm the
storms.
night before. It was
But
murky,
otherwise, it
so
would have
we-
been crystal blue. But you just work with what you got, and we still have great footage from it. And that's my story.
I think it's those times, when you're most stressed out. I think one of the most stressful times for us was the first day of shoot for Jimami Tofu, because remember, we had been working with a set that was just us and one other person. And so we turned up, and on the Japanese side, because they were funding it, they were allowed to hire a full team. And because they were paying for it, the government was paying them. None of it was coming to us. And so they had 40 people turn up. And, they were kind of, I felt that they were probably looking down on us, because some of their first questions was, okay, we're going to go to the equipment rental place. What do you need? Give us a list of all the things you need.
Everything.
No, we said,
We have everything in our backpack.
yeah, we've got everything in these backpacks because that's how we're going to shoot. And they just looked at us a bit strangely and said, no, what? Give us a list.
You need the
We're like,
generators. What do you need? What do you need? Generator. What kind of?
yeah, we didn't even know the names
many
of all the stuff,
how many
right? The
C
C-stands with the lights, the big lights, these big ones that, we always use. No, we don't need anything. So I ordered one electric light. Because I just kind of felt that was probably pretty uncool. But I just went, okay, if you're going to go, just order, I just want one of those electric. Do you want to come with us? No, I don't mind. And we just had this one little electric light and one C-stand.
Did it help?
And we brought it back. After the first day, we never used it again. Because it took 5 minutes to set up.
Oh,
And it didn't even look great. So we went, well, it's 5 minutes to set up each time, and then the C-stand and the things. Let's just get rid of it, dude. And we'll just use our little plastic panels, LED panels, which are battery operated. I tell you, the early days, the crew were just going, what the hell are we doing?
They didn't
here?
really trust us.
They didn't trust us, so it was really tough for us. And then the very first day when we actually got there, out to the cliffs, and there were 40 people, I said, Christian, I don't even know where to put the people. Because they have to be behind the camera, right? We're so used to just operating 2 or 3 cameras because we've got no one. We can just operate and duck down and everyone's out of sight. But you got 40 people, where do we put them all?
Well, okay. Well, I mean, like in regards to what Ming had just said, before, like a few days before the shoot and all that. I think like that stems from like being worried about like whether it's gonna work, whether like the things that you've planned during pre-production or things you've written is gonna work out, and like if it's gonna look good, if like everyone's gonna be like, oh, okay, that's good, because like you have that pressure on yourself, right, to be like, I gotta make something good, like it has to be good, like I'm like putting my name out there, right, like yeah, my name's at stake, my reputation's at stake, kind of.
And part of that is kind of compartmentalization. It's what I usually do, but sometimes you get overwhelmed and you're just like, right. But I think when you're overwhelmed or feeling that a problem is huge and insurmountable, like because it's so vague, right? And it's just like, oh, it's so huge and like, oh, distribution, like for example, right? It's just this vague, huge problem out there. I guess what you really can do is try to compartmentalize it, right? Like if you break it down, everything is a series of small steps that you can do.
You said it really well. It's incremental, right? And I think we discovered that as well through this whole journey. It's like, it's a marathon. So we always tell ourselves when we have this massive barrier or a big dip in our, trajectory, we always say, it's a marathon. And each day we just try to be a little bit less crap. That's it. We're a little bit less crap. Eventually, we'll be okay.
Our listeners want to follow your films on Instagram and Facebook. What are your platforms? What are your handles?
Instagram, it's Repossession Film. Twitter, it's at Repossession SG.
We're at Banana Mana Films, the Facebook page, but actually for the movie, it's separate. Jimami Tofu, the movie, and of course, Cinewave is a new thing. So we're on Facebook and Instagram at Cinewave.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on to our show and having this chat with us and sharing all your experiences, which from some of your faces might not have been the easiest things to relieve. So thank you so much for sharing with us.